Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Faryal Razzaq, CEO and the founder of the FEEEL. And today we are here with our third free session lessons educational series. We call it Mind Hack 101 for the fear of failure. The fear of unknown. Why we have chosen this topic is due to the environmental condition that we are seeing amid the corona COVID-19 outbreak. So there is a lot of information. If you check your WhatsApp, if you check your Facebook, if you check the news, everywhere it is flooded with coronavirus news and a lot of ambiguous and a lot of unauthentic information. So it has created a global obsession with coronavirus, and it has brought a lot of fear and anxiety because nobody knows what is going to happen. So let's talk about it, why we are acting the way we are acting. Most of our assumptions are based on the fact that if I worry, then the things I fear won't happen. Most of the time, subconsciously, this is what we are doing. But what happened? Because our brain is basically a decision-making tool. It processes the information that we have. So we need to be cognizant that what is it? What is the right set of information before we can make any decision? So this corona outbreak and the fear that it has created is affecting the lives. It's affecting a lot of things that we have done because we are being faced with such unprecedented situations with so much uncertain future. Our livelihood, our businesses, our education, and a lot of things that we were so engrossed, striving for utilizing the best of our times is at stake now. So what does it entail? Because we have a tendency to think negatively. So what happens that despair and fear leads to overreactions. And what happens? Okay, it feels better to be doing something when this kind of feeling, the fear and this overreaction, gets into our mind. So it feels better to be doing something rather than, getting accustomed to this uncomfortable feeling that we have. So, excuse me. So we have seen the reactions here. Doing something, trying to take control of the situation leads to the panic buying. We call it retail therapy. And retail therapy and recency effects, if you process how the brain processes it, is because when you buy a lot of stuff and you think that you have a situation under control because you were fearing that things would be scarce, you won't get supplies. And we have seen the obsession with toilet rolls in the US and, the panic buying and the shortage of masks and hand sanitizers here as well. So what happens that when you buy a lot of stuff, the recency effect tells you, because brains like to see what recently you have done, and it gives you a peace of mind kind of a thing that you are well prepared for it. But on the contrary, it is a domino effect. We call it a bandwagon effect. When somebody out of their anxiety start panic buying, everybody, it's just like start doing it. So it leads to behavioral economies. What is behavioral economies? Like a lot of things start coming and people start panic buying, things started getting short. And what do you think? If you buy ample set of masks and hand sanitizers for yourself and you're well equipped, and the other people who are infected out there don't have such provisions, and the virus won't come to you, it will come to you. So we are in a loop of our mind which is telling us wrong things. So we need to understand that why we are doing that, because our mind hates change. We fear change, and we don't like the unprecedented things that we have. So, excuse me, I do have a cough, but I don't suspect that I will be having a coronavirus as yet, unless it is. Excuse me. I'm sure. I hope I don't sound too loud. So, sorry. So let's start and treat corona as a condition. Corona is a condition. Why I say it's a condition? Because everywhere you go, you can't, get rid of it. You're inwardly you're talking about it. Your family members are talking about it. People on WhatsApp are talking about it. People on Facebook are talking about it. So this is a global epidemic, pandemic. Now it's a pandemic, and not only that, it's a global obsession as well. People are obsessed with it, and so we need to understand what it brings forth to us. There are two types of risks that it poses: higher than 15 to 20%, and that too with the person with preconditions. Those who had diabetes, severe cancers, or who were actually already terminally ill people, very old age people. So, what risk do we have from dying? So, we are overreacting here, and overreaction leads to a cyclical thinking process. I hope it's on. Because it shows some poor connectivity issues here. Anyways, coming back to mind, how does your mind work? Your mind works on some predictions. It doesn't go about interacting in the world. It gets its predictions from the existing experiences that you have stored in your memory. So, if you say it doesn't know how to differentiate your thought patterns, mind cannot differentiate the very sentences. Like if you are trying yourself to find scenarios, let's pretend, what if I die? It doesn't know the difference between I'm dying. What if I'm dying? So it doesn't know how to differentiate the very sentences. So what happens is, when you think in a way that leads to very serious consequences, then your brain start generating solutions. Whenever you give your brain a what if scenario, it is going to start generating solutions. And what will happen, it is going to take you into cyclical loop of thinking. As it says that what you resist persist. So what happens is that we need to understand that when we are in that cyclical loop of information, and our mind is playing tricks on us, it's a spin-off. And this cyclical loop of, in the brain, that the cyclical loop it is in, takes you into a panic mode as well. So you need to understand, and it is very simple to understand. You need to ask two questions to yourself. The first question that you need to ask yourself is, do I have enough information to make my decision right now? Or is worrying, worrying in this situation will make it help me in making the right decisions? Excuse me. Do you have enough information, or will the worrying make you make better decisions? When you understand this thing, you are actually reasoning with the mind. Now the mind is not playing what if scenarios and generating all of that scary informations that you've read over the internet, how people died, how governments fail, and how things happen, and make prediction on the basis of those unverified, unsolicited informations that you have gained over the time. So let's talk about what approaches we can adopt, because the threat is real, the threat is imminent, and we must know that sooner or later we are going to be confronted with that. This coronavirus, we don't know if it is going to be killed by the heat or we are going to have a solution. But what we can do is precautions and prepare ourselves, and ground ourselves in reality. So there is a paradoxical approach. The paradoxical approach is called counterintuitive approach. So if you try to focus on worry, it works on two principles. If you try to focus on worry and try your mind to be extra worried, okay, you focus on the worry. I worry that coronavirus is there. And now you try to be extra worried. Okay, coronavirus is there. अब क्या होगा? मुझे कुछ हो तो नहीं जाएगा. What is going to happen? So you would see that your mind is going to reason out with you, because the mind knows that you don't have the COVID right now, and it's going to make better decisions for you. So why we call it a paradoxical approach? Because your conscious effort to increase anxiety will decrease it. So आप informed decisions पर बेस करेंगे तो जो आपकी conscious effort एंग्जाइटी होने की, वो आपको रैशनली बताएगी कि ये सिचुएशन इतनी बुरी नहीं है जितना आप सोच रहे हैं. सो द माइंड विल प्ले इन फेवर ऑफ यू. सो दिस इज द स्टेप वन. कि स्टेप ऑन, और इससे ये होगा कि जब आप कॉन्शियसली यू वुड लाइक टू ट्राई टू बी वरीड, सेइंग दैट व्हाट इज इट that worry you most about that coronavirus. So when you try to consciously try to worry it, you're sick of it and you'll normalize. And then we have ACT therapy. ACT therapy is acceptance and commitment therapy. Acceptance and commitment therapy means that what is it that actually worries you, that you have this coronavirus? Is it in the way of you doing anything important to you? Is it stopping you to do something important that you were doing? So what does it mean? It means that how your thoughts are influencing your behavior. Okay, I'm sitting at home, working from home. There were certain projects that I were doing that were important to me, which are impeded, but I'm still able to do that. So this acceptance and commitment therapy makes you ground into the things that matters to you most. So think of it, what was it important to you, and focus on your personal objectives now. Okay, because of this coronavirus, there were certain things that were important to me that I'm not being able to do. And then what are your personal goals about it? So become more willing to live your life well despite fear. It will help you that in developing that kind of a mindset where you're tolerant of your insecurities. So you must realize what is it stopping you to do right now, and what were your personal goals, and realign them and see there are a lot of things that we are doing, but eventually what was our goal? To do it for our family or friends or our career. And if you come to think of it, this has given us a moment of reflection. This coronavirus has given a very big opportunity to just sit down and reflect what was actually important to us. So think of it as an opportunity rather than a threat. Think of lockdown not as a threat, but a precautionary measure, because a time to reflect. So if you change the way you think about the things, You change the way you react to it. Your mind is going to change the way you react to it. And this negative thinking you have to address. And this is how I told you that this chronic worry, when it sets in, it hijacks your personal life agendas. So we call this cognitive restructuring. Tell yourself encouraging thoughts. Like I said, that you have to reframe your that if this lockdown, what kind of opportunities are there? Um, so what should be our goal? We should not let our mind go into the thought loops. These thought loops are actually going to affect us. So we have to understand these thought loops. If it brings us to a panic mode or an anxiety attack, what's it's going to happen? Our primal instincts are going to set in. Our rational brain is going to shut down. So this is the last thing we want to do, to shut down our rational brain. So we need to understand. We need to understand that we have to be grounded into the reality. This is the last thing we need to do. So for more information, the close you study on here and now, that is the power of mindfulness. What's happening? What are the statistics? What are the realities? Don't go to the fake news. I think there is no cure for incompetence. There is no cure for the fake information that we have. I think it is a bigger pandemic, the fake information, because it's creating a lot of panic, and people are stopped thinking. We need to understand that sometimes all it takes is to carry on. We know these are uncertain situations. We don't know how it's going to affect us. But sometimes the bravest thing is to just carry on. And it's brave and it's magnificent. So you don't want your mind to get into that loop where it, breeds insecurities and gets into the panic mode and puts you back to your amygdala hijack. You don't want to do that. You want to be in a rational state of mind, because your decisions are going to affect your life and how you live it. So Buddha once said to his one of his disciple that what happens if you are hit with one arrow? Like we are all hit by the arrow of this pandemic, coronavirus. And then he asked him, what happened if the second arrow hits? Will it be as painful, as hurtful, as scary as being hit by the first arrow? It's a very deep and a very basic question that we should be asking ourselves. The first arrow is hit us. The second arrow is our reaction, our psychological reaction to it. So the first arrow was not in our control. It was being hurled at us. But this second arrow is what we are hurling at ourselves. That's our own reaction. So the amount of pain and the suffering depends on how you react to the first arrow. So resilience is the answer. Resilience means notice your thought patterns. It has 3 steps. Resilience, that notice your thought patterns. You need to understand how you're thinking and why you're thinking. And then unhooking from the non-constructive thoughts, which are irrational, which are based on ill information that you're receiving from the internet. And then focus on the calm. And first of all, we need to understand the only way we can survive as a species is if we only, from this epidemic, this global crisis, is if we practice compassion. And right now, our health system, our governments are not equipped to take on this challenge. So what are they working on? They're working on the principle of evolutionary psychology. And what is that evolutionary psychology? It is being programmed to survive at all cost. even at the cost of, let the weak one die, and the stronger, the survival of the fittest. Because for thousands and thousands of years, our evolutionary psychology was developed on the premise of survival, passing on your genes to the next generation. So what happened in the COVID case, we see doctors get to choose who live and who die. So whom they choose to let live is the stronger person who can pass on the genes. So this is based on the concept of, ethics में हम कहते हैं इसको utilitarian concept, which is based on cost and benefit analysis and which works for the betterment for the whole humanity. So this is what our health system is basically working on. They're trying to make the species survive, the survival of the fittest. That person is given the chance to live who has better chances of, transferring its genes to the next generation and the survival of the species. So we need to understand that only compassion, and we have been hearing these slogans, and I found it totally absurd that united we fall and divided we stand. No, I truly do not agree on that. These kind of thinking is the root cause of basically all the panic and all the wrong that is going in this situation. We're not talking about social distancing here. We're talking about the mind. We're talking about dil se dil ka rishta jo hai, understanding. So united we stand. If we understand that we have to help each other, compassion is the key right here. And if we divide, and if we are into that, stigmas, and we are into stigmas, that I have even talked to some people who said that when they see some Chinese people, they tend to stay away from them, that they're so scared that even the Chinese food can give them virus. I mean, look at how we have started stigmatizing and judgmental, how, and this, what the last thing we need to do is to trigger that dark survivalist, syndrome. What is that? Every person is for themselves. So it is okay for them to do all the selfish deed in the world, and the panic buying that we saw is because they think that we are important and nobody else. And what is the psychology behind that? Because in near future, you don't see yourself helping other. You think you are all for yourself, nobody is there for you, and so you're not there for anybody else. And this is what is wrong. The only way we can survive as a species is if we stand together, if we are cognizant, हम अपने elderlies का भी ख्याल करें, छोटों का भी ख्याल करें, those who are poor in resources. What do you think if there is a complete shutdown for a year or something? Will there be any difference between a rich and a poor, resourceful or not resourceful? Yes. The earth has plenty of resources right now. About 2-3 years back, when I conducted this research, I found that earth produces food for 11 billion people right now. And yet, 3.5 billion people go hungry. So it's not about the resources, scarcity of resources, it's about the selfishness that we have. So we need to, develop this compassion, and we need to understand that we are not there for ourselves. There are shared vulnerabilities and interdependencies. We need to understand that. Because if we forget about that, because if all of my people, let's say if I'm living in an apartment building and I am very well equipped and very well secured myself, and all rest of the building has this virus, how long will it be before, with all the precautions and the hoardings and everything that I have, that I will be infected? It's pretty soon. So we need to understand it's a collective effort. We need to be cognizant of that. And we understand that mind hates change. And what we need to understand is we need to approach this problem with an abundant mindset, not scarcity mindset. There are two types of mindset. Because scarcity mindset stems from the fear of loss, and this fear of unknown, that we don't know. And we need to understand that if the situation gets as bad as it may get, how long we can store the supplies, how long, and what we see in doomsday pictures, that we see that people start killing each other over food supplies and things and all that. So it is going to be a brute jungle law out there, and there'll be no governments and all that. So don't let it be a doomsday scenario, unless we see that we have to help each other out here. So this fear, we need to understand that the fear stems from our prefrontal cortex, which is the rational thinking brain. It analyzes it because it can analyze the situations, the threats it's offer. So we need to understand that we have to take it to our, not the survival mode. We don't need that amygdala hack right now. We need to think rationally and see that there is an 80% chance of, getting that coronavirus and recovering from it. So be prepared, understand what is going to happen here. And my advice is, please shut off all the channels and leave all those groups who are spreading all this false information. People are, I don't know, for people are providing a lot of wrong information, and this is an information crisis right now. And we are seeing a lot of things happening, like people have taking precautions as a weakness of delusions. It's all because of not knowing our religion well. Our religion says that safai nisf iman hai, half of our religion is actually practicing hygiene. So if you can just see that there is one easy way to step and recede from this situation that this world has reached to, is just practice distance for a while. And practicing distance doesn't mean abandoning people. It means just to be in a physical proximity, and you can keep in touch, help each other, share your supplies, share information, and provide psychological support. The worst thing any person can ever fear, why we fear death, why we fear graves, it's just all alone in a dark and unknown LA. So don't push the living ones to this dark and unknown, lonely LA here. Please be there for each other, support each other. This is the time to support. Social distancing, I think we need to name it physical proximity or physical distancing, not the social distancing. Let's call it physical distancing and not the social distancing. This is the more time that we should be connected as a community. We should be talking to each other. We have to be there for each other. This is the only way that we can survive here, and not by being selfish approach, hoarding stuff. And please be compassionate. Be compassionate. I don't know how often I can say that, and almost everything I say, I always say that, be compassionate. So what we have to do is we have to reach this as a, with an abundance mindset. And ignorance doesn't have a vaccine yet. I wish it had. So what we see, it's how can we do that? I mean, you can just tell a person, you can take the hose to the water, you can't make it drink. Rabia says that it is very difficult to educate people to face this global crisis, is because we have so varied information. When a lot of masjid imams had been heard saying that that they have to come, I'm telling you, if we just tell them it's a matter of hygiene. Islam is a religion of hygiene. Think of everything that comes from outside as unhygienic. The concept of pak and palit. And what do you drink? It's a very bad example, I'm sorry to say that. Would you drink a crystal clear water when there is one drop of urine in it? You won't do that. Think of this thing as like purifying it, pak karna hai aapne usko, anything that comes from outside. So be extra hygienic. This is what it entails. आपका हाथ लगाना, आपका अपने मुंह पर करना, washing your hands, पांच दफ़ा we have been asked to, offer 5 time prayers, ablution for 5 times at least, our hand, face, ear, nose, eyes, and our neck, our wrist, up to our elbows and our feet. So these are the things that actually go out and interact with the people. Look at the science of that. So we need to understand that there is nothing wrong. This is what our religion was to begin with. It is teaching us basic, courtesy, to sneeze and cover your hand like with an elbow. Don't cough on people. I mean, this was basic hygiene that we should have been practicing, and maybe it is a reset button by the world to go back to the basics. I mean, we need to go to the basic decency, where your germs should not be passed on to the others. So how you can ensure that your germs don't pass on to the other, and how you can protect yourself from the other's germs to get to you? This is it. This is how, these are the two principles that can ensure that we come strong from this crisis. So don't, share anything unless you're 100% sure that information is correct. Just for the sake of keeping your mind in a loop, or being very, efficient, you are trying to share false information because you have nothing to do, and you wanted to look doing something because you were very uncomfortable with the feeling what was posing, so you had to do something. So concentrate on your behaviors, please. I say, find out the root cause of your behavior, find what's right, what's wrong. And it's okay to fear, it's okay to be anxious, but it's not okay to be in a cyclical process, to be on this anxiety loopholes that we call this anxiety loop. Understand how your mind works. Your mind works on the information that you gives it. It projects the what if scenarios for you. So don't let your mind to shut down to your primal instincts, to go into this amygdala hijack where you are forced to fight, flee, or like just freeze. So don't do that. Let your rational brain be there. Practice breathing. And the best thing I can advise you is based your reactions on analysis. So if you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, just focus on today. If today is too overwhelming, just focus from hour to hour basis. Okay, this hour, is it happening right now? No. So next week, if you don't know what's going to be next week, then focus on today. And think of tomorrow when tomorrow comes. So this is as simple as that. When things get, Rabia says that when things get imbalanced, nature calls. Yeah, I think इसमें कोई शक नहीं है. I mean, I do kind of to some extent agree to the conspiracy theories that Allah ka azab hai, it is a wrath from the God, and we have been and haven't we seen that how we have done how hand sanitizers and how this all masks were out of the market, and people are selling it in such a they're trying to make profits out of this. And this is the first place we are having, if we are being religious and think if it is the wrath from God, this is the very reason, and we are doing it even more severely in the time of crisis as well. So I think, be compassionate, look out for each other, go into your communities, look at your parents, elderlies, parents, and everybody else. And ladies and gentlemen, this is not the time to panic. This is the time to reflect. This is the time to think rationally. So thank you so much for being there, and I hope it was any useful to you, and we will be continuing with this session. Please find authentic source of information and disconnect and focus on learning, focus on your life goal, what's important to you, what this opportunity has brought to you. Connect to your family, connect to your passion, what connect to God. This is the time हमने अल्लाह को हमेशा पीछे रखा. So have a wonderful evening and have a wonderful days ahead, and I hope we come strong out of this COVID crisis, and I wish you all the best health and God be with you. अपना बहुत ख्याल रखिएगा. Okay, अल्लाह हाफिज.